conducted live in the chamber and through Microsoft Teams. And apologies and forbearance for the late start. The previous meeting overran by quite a bit. So before we begin the meeting, I'm going to ask Councillor Duncan McInnes to lead us in a word of prayer. Councillor McInnes.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we give you thanks this afternoon for giving us all the opportunity to be gathered here in the chamber and online. And Lord, we pray for the chair and the vice chair as it takes us through all the items on the agenda, and that you be there to guide both of them through all the topics that will be discussed. And Lord, we give thanks for Chief Executive and all the staff and all the members and the work they have done throughout this year. And as we come to the end of another year, we see the darkness that surrounds us with the news that and pray for the McInnes family in Eust and the family, the Scott family and their sad loss. And Lord, we pray for the Bengan family and the despair that they're going through at this particular time. Lord, that you be with them through such challenging times. And Lord, at this particular time of year, we pray and give thanks to the wonderful staff of the council and the excellent work that they have done in keeping the council going during such difficult and challenging times when they experience such devastation and seeing the dark world that surrounds us following the cyber attack just over a year ago. And we're so thankful that you've given them the guidance, the skills and the expertise to go beyond all expectation to make sure that the council managed to carry on work in such difficult and challenging times. And Lord, we pray at this particular time for all those within the community that are going through difficult times, be they through addiction, mental health, and also the cost of living crisis. And when young families are having to make the decision whether they're going to switch on their energy or light and buy food. And Lord, we pray that as a Comhairle will carry on making sure that those that are in such difficult times that we go and extend the financial contribution we do get, that they are channeled to all the various agencies that go out of their way to help them. And Lord, at this particular time, we think of those that are in nursing homes and the care that they do get, and we value that contribution for the care service that we provide. And Lord, we remember the rescue services that are going through such difficult times in difficult weather conditions and all the expectations they do and go beyond their usual duties. And Lord, we ask all those things in your name and pardon our sins. For Christ's sake. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor McInnes. Just a reminder that the meeting is now being recorded, and I'm ruling out the appendix to item 5 as urgent to allow the matter to be considered prior to the next meeting of the Comhairle. So, sorry, Councillor Murray.
Chair, given the fact that it's now 4 o'clock and I know that officers have been involved in committees since 9:30, and we've got a very important agenda ahead of us. Always the audit and scrutiny agenda is very important. I'm very cognizant of the fact that we've got a hugely important agenda item at the last point, 13, which is the internal audit report on the cyber attack. And I think that we need to give that due diligence. And I have got a lot of questions on that. And by the time we get to that report, it's going to be quite late. So I want to move that we leave that report and adjourn it on a future meeting of audit and scrutiny so we can give it proper diligence and a good hearing. And I'd like to move that we leave that to a future meeting of audit and scrutiny.
I think, Councillor Murray, I think we're best try and deal with this if we can. Seats in front of us. I'm happy to take the report before some of the other reports, so that's going to ease things to see how we get on. I am conscious of we're all present here today to deal with the report and answer any questions. So I'm happy if the committee's willing, after we get Audit Scotland's report, to take that item next.
I'm moving the recommendation, so I'm looking for a seconder, if that's okay.
Anyone seconding? Councillor Mackenzie? Councillor, yeah, wait, could you be a light on, Councillor Mackenzie?
If you're taking it now, I'm quite happy with that.
Thank you. I'll take it after the Audit Scotland, because Audit Scotland have been waiting for quite a while, and we'll take their report first, and then we'll move on to further if the committee's in approval of that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll take the minutes of the meeting of 26th September, first of all, for approval. Agreed. Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 3. I'll take declarations of interest. Obviously, members are asked to declare any interest they have in the item of the agenda, and to be helpful if members expressed why they're declaring an interest in the item concerned. Members in the chamber, please do so now by pressing your microphone on or remotely through Teams by using the raise hand function. I'm not seeing anyone in the chamber, and I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay, so there's no declarations of interest. Item 3 on the agenda, Audit Scotland, this best value report on workshop innovation. This report by Audit Scotland is a 2023 local government overview. Notes that councils have never faced such a challenging situation. Service demands have increased after the COVID-19 pandemic, and finding is forecast is reduced in real terms. This report sets out how the Comhairle is responding to current workforce challenges through building capacity, increasing productivity and innovation. And I'm pleased to welcome Claire Gardner from Audit Scotland, who's online and is present to report on this report. And following that, I'll ask Norma Skinner and then the Chief Executive, and then members have any questions. Claire, welcome.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for accommodating my request to be put early on the agenda. I unfortunately have other meetings that I need to leave at 5 o'clock. So this report is the second topic in our 5-year programme of thematic reviews, and it is our first report which we've brought to you from our 2023-24 audit programme. It focuses on the critical role that workforce plays in delivering services and council priorities, and we reviewed the Comhairle's approach to workforce planning and how they encourage innovation in relation to supporting the workforce. I will take the report mostly as read, but I would just like to highlight some of the key messages from the report for the committee today. We first explored the use of a workforce strategy and its linkages to overarching priorities of the Comhairle. We've highlighted here that the Comhairle has a workforce plan covering the period from 2023-27, which sets out the intention of the workforce plan to be informed by the corporate strategy, but it doesn't set out how the workforce planning will contribute to the priorities, and we've raised 3 recommendations in this area, which focus on developing a strategic vision for the workforce, linking this to the overarching strategy, and linking this with service workforce plans. We then move on to section 2, which considers how digital technology can be used to support the workforce, and we are satisfied that there is a digitalisation strategy. We've highlighted that the Comhairle is at an early stage of digital adoption compared to other councils, but that the cyber attack provided an opportunity to reevaluate and update the systems. We've highlighted at paragraph 36 some projects which are underway which will improve productivity, and we've recommended that the Comhairle should quantify the benefits associated with the planned actions in the digital strategy. Moving on, we've highlighted that the Comhairle has a flexible approach to their staff and has developed a hybrid working policy, and there's evidence of staff engagement. We've highlighted that the relationship with trade unions is still developing due to changes in the membership, and we've raised a recommendation around supporting the development of the relationships with the trade unions. We also considered the arrangements for building capacity and skills for the future, and we found that there are several initiatives in place to encourage new people into roles within the Comhairle, including the use of apprenticeships. We've highlighted that the Comhairle has formal arrangements in place for shared services with partners to create workforce benefits, and it is limited in sharing services with other councils by its commitment to employing people living in the Western Isles to ensure a sustainable population. Finally, we focused on the monitoring of workforce planning actions. We know that the Comhairle has develop both corporate and service level action plans for workforce planning, and that annual monitoring is in place at corporate level. We have highlighted that the monitoring and reporting of progress against service level action plans could improve, and we've raised 3 recommendations in this section, recognising that the Comhairle needs to set out how it intends to assess its overall performance in workforce planning and what metrics it will use. That was all I wanted to highlight today, but I would just like to take this opportunity to thank officers for all the work involved in pulling this report together, and particularly Norma. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you for that. And I'll ask Norma maybe just come in and comment on the recommendations for the Chief Executive. Norma?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, worked with Audit Scotland on the development of this report. Just a few things to highlight. Around our overarching outcomes, we have the outcomes that were known to be our top priorities, and these are supporting organisational change, which ties in succession planning, developing our HR system, which of course is a key piece of work that we're working on at the moment, a lot around training and apprenticeships around the offer of employment, and employee communication. That's about the work with the trade unions and employee forum, etc., and also looking at policies to ensure that they remain relevant. Once the recognised trade unions were in place and the JCC was able to start again, we did provide the draft plan to the JCC prior to it being presented for approval to the Comhairle, albeit that we didn't have the trade unions in place while we were starting to develop the plan, so that is absolutely acknowledged. And just to also flag up that with the new membership on the JCC, we're very happy to be working with them, and we were very keen to continue to improve the positive relationships that we do have with the trade unions, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Norma. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair. Very, very briefly, first of all, just thanks to Ms Gardner and Audit Scotland colleagues for their openness to discussion and the evidence and the conclusions. It was a good iterative process, this report, as it should be. I've little to add to what's been said. I suppose I'm focusing on the summary and the appendix. Are we on target? Most are green, a couple of ambers, no reds, which is the important thing. And if you read the narrative of the report, there is substantial work in progress on all matters. Some, of course, are not entirely within our own gift, such as the local outcome improvement plan. That's a community planning endeavour which we will endeavour to lead. But I've no further comments other than to add to what's been said.
Thank you.
And thanks for the process. I have to say, I think it is good that there is an Audit Scotland focus on each aspect or a particular aspect of local government activity. This time it was workforce. I think that's a very good way to be going in these troubled times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do members have any questions for Councillor Gordon Murray?
Thank you, Chair. First question I have is that when I checked the council website, I saw that this was not available for the public. And ask why it wasn't available, because we're not having this in private. The link wasn't working.
Do you have any other questions too, Gordon?
I do have a follow.
Do you want to take them all together and then?
No, I think one by one is better.
Yeah, okay, just let you in. Norma, you able to answer? Right.
The report wasn't available on the public website. I wondered, was there any particular reason? Because we're not holding this in private.
No,
would it be
no, not that I'm aware of.
No reason. No. Okay. They're just checking that at the moment. Okay. Next question.
Yeah, my second question is, it says that the Comhairle did not engage with employees or trade unions when developing the plan. And I wanted to ask why and what employees were involved in developing the plan. And I think you had mentioned the joint consultative committee. I missed that. If you could let me know why they weren't involved in the plan.
Ms. Skinner.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the Joint Consultative Committee is the the consulting committee for working with the trade unions and employees. At that time, when we were developing this, some of the recognised trade unions didn't have representatives locally, so we didn't engage with them at the early stages, but we did when it was still in draft, when it was still a draft plan, we did present it to the trade unions and employees through that route for consultation, and they were happy with the plan, and then it came to committee for approval following that.
Okay, so there was consultation, but was there engagement? That's what I was asking.
No, there's discussions with groups. There's consultation with the corporate management team. We've since set up the employee forum again, but again, that wasn't in place at that time. But we do have the employee forum back up and running.
Sorry, in response to your first question, I've been informed it is available on the websites.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the information I've been given just now. So
I've got another number of questions, if that's okay.
yeah, can we? Yeah, okay. Can we put something together, Councillor Murray, to save back and forth and yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put them all together then. In point 7, I want to ask the auditor about annual monitoring is in place at corporate level, but the monitoring and reporting of progress against service level action plans could improve. I wonder if she could elaborate on that, and maybe what would she suggest in terms of improvement?
Okay, Claire, you want to ask?
Yeah. So if I come back on that one, so in addition to the corporate level plans, every service that's supported by service level plans. So when we are speaking about the progress against them, it is the monitoring against those service level plans, which are done by each individual service. And it's really about the clarity and frequency around the reports, which are done at a service level, that we are recommending could improve. I don't know whether that answers the question.
Councillor Murray?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. There was point 37 as well about the digitalisation strategy, and it says the COLA has not quantified potential transformation or cost efficiency benefits in its digitalisation strategy as recommended in Audit Scotland's Best Value Thematic Review 22-23. I just want to ask why not? Because surely this should be a matter of urgency given the budgetary pressures we're under. And this was also highlighted, I believe, by the financial consultant when she did her review on medium and long-term strategies.
Yeah, I'll ask Ms. Nora to back in, Nora.
Thank you, Chair. There is actions obviously within the digitalisation strategy, but this is specifically looking at the productivity gains, and that is quite challenging to measure in terms of return on investment, etc., when you're looking at building in new digitalisation. So that's something that we are going to be taking forward. It's in the action plan, and that is something we will be looking at going forward.
Is that something that will be included in maybe the budget strategy in terms of cost efficiency?
I can't speak specifically for the budget strategy, but certainly something that we will be looking at.
Mary, any more questions?
Yeah. If I just flick, if you bear with me, I'm just going to number 75, sorry. The corporate workforce plan contains an action plan, and I want to ask, can this committee monitor the plan, looking at the key recommendations, and are we agreeing the recommendations from Audit Scotland as well? Is that what we're doing in this committee? We've agreed the recommendations. So will these come back so that we can monitor their progress.
There will be a review from Audit Scotland. Yes, that will come back to us.
But will we be doing
It will come to this
at
committee.
every committee
Yeah, it will come to this committee.
periodically?
Period. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Any further questions then on the Audit Scotland report? We agree to note. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mustafa.
It was more of a clarification. I see in point 25 and 26 in terms of digital technology has a strong bearing on the council workforce, and that the recommendation the council need to be innovative in the use of technology, and obviously that's good. Bearing in mind that the council was a victim of serious cyber crime. So how do we balance the security and encouragement of use more of technology?
Mr. Nicholl, would you be able to answer that? Sorry to be on the spot. Yeah.
I'm not undermining the task and the challenge in front of me.
Could you possibly repeat that?
It was just on one hand, we're encouraged to use more technology, and on the other hand, knowing the challenge, obviously, of the cyber attack and what we had, the crime. It's how do we balance the two? I'm looking at.
Well, we obviously have to take into consideration the security is going to be foremost in all our plans going forward with the use of new technology. A lot of the new technology that's coming out, everyone's heard about the development of AI, and that's been brought into local authorities at the moment. There's a lot of governance required around that, and other authorities right now are putting that work in. It's the type of thing that we could look at and follow their example, because they'll have done a lot of the hard work in respect of security versus rolling out that type of technology. So it's it is a balance.
You happy with that, Councillor?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Colin McLean.
Yeah, it's just a question of going back to the improvement action plan from what Audit Scotland have produced. I see there's differing timelines. I take that these timelines are on account of the importance of each one. Is that, or is it giving time for the council to produce these action plans? I see the first one is, I think, in December 2024. So you're coming back at stages when it's completed. I take that's what you meant.
That's right. Yeah. And Ms. Skinner will answer your question as well.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the timings are set by ourselves, although Audit Scotland have set out the recommendations. What I've been really looking at is what is realistic from our point of view and how quickly we can do things. So there's some, for example, where we had already got things in motion with the likes of the employee survey. So that will be concluding in December, and we hope to report that early in the new year. There's other areas where I'm highlighting, well, we're not going to be doing a new corporate workforce strategy straight away. We'll wait until this one is near conclusion, and we'll start working on a new one, preparing in 2026 so that it's ready for 2027. And obviously there is some in between areas where looking at the templates for the service reporting and the prioritisation for PIs, etc. We'll look at that in the interim.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. Yeah,
thank you. Okay, no further questions. Do members agree? No. Oh, sorry, Claire. Sorry, do you want to come back?
Hi, yeah, it was just to come back on a couple of the points that had been raised. I will keep it brief because I'm aware of time. So just on the the cost benefits of the digitalisation strategy that was raised earlier, just to note that this is something that we're seeing across councils, and that is quite a difficult area to quantify the benefits of that. So that's not something that is specific to the Comhairle. It's something we recognise it is a difficult thing to do. And with regards to innovation, just to highlight that we will be compiling the results of all the reports across the 32 councils and pulling out areas of good practice which could be used as information for the council to consider when thinking about innovation, particularly with digital processes. So it was just to highlight that there will be further work on this.
Thank you very much for that, Claire. Thank you. And with that, do any members have any further questions? No. Members agree to note this report? Thank you. Okay, just before we move on to, I said I would move on next, but I see risk management is next, and we've got an officer sitting here who's just spoken to a report of the previous committee. So do any members have any questions for Rebecca on the report, or can we just note a report? It's item number 6, the risk management policy strategy. So it seeks approval of the risk management policy strategy, and Rebecca's already spoken to this report at the previous committee. So members have any questions for Rebecca before we move? We're happy to note the report. Agree recommendations? Yeah, okay. Thanks for that. Okay, Rebecca. Thank you. Okay, so we move on now to item 13 on the agenda. This is the internal audit report on the cyber attack of November 2023 and lessons learned. It's a report by Mr. Sandy Gomez, the Chief Internal Auditor, and aims to provide members with an evaluation of the Comhairle's response to the cyber attack it was subjected to on 7th November 2023. It details the lessons learned in the recovery process, as well as any recommendations to reduce the risk of further incidents. And Mr. Gomez will speak to the report, and Carl Mackenzie and Mr. Markham Nicholl are also present to answer any questions. Mr. Gomez.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, so as you've said, the report on the Comhairle's response to the cyber attack of 2023, along with details of the lessons learned and recommendations for reducing the risks. It's quite a full and comprehensive report, so I won't go through every detail, but I would like to draw members' attentions to what I think are a few key areas. So section 2.4 as well as 13.2 just show that despite detailed investigations by forensic cyber specialists, there was no indicator of compromise found. So what this means is that the method by which the attackers gained access to the system is unknown. And this is not unusual given the criminal and sophisticated methods that cyber attackers are using in this day and age. Sections 2 and 3 as a whole just give a full insight into the background of the attack and the initial phases of the response, explaining how the Comhairle responded in the immediate days after it, what processes were immediately undertaken, how the IMT was set up, etc. In section 4, I'm just highlighting the impacts on services. Services did continue to operate as normal as far as clients and customers were concerned, but the impact on services has not always been seen in full view. Whilst there's a range of impacts detailed in section 4 here, it should be highlighted just kind of how challenging it's been for the likes of the finance section in particular, for example. They lost all their key systems, which was quite overwhelming, and the difficulties, complexities and challenges in finding the workarounds here just, it can't be understated. Impacts still being felt despite the recovery and will probably continue to do so for quite a while into the future as well. In section 6, I'm just detailing how incredibly impactful this has been for staff. We continue to work on the recovery, but it should be noted there's likely to be long-term effects of the nature of how this has taken its toll on staff, particularly IT staff as well as finance staff, effects which may not be known yet. Following discussions with services, as shown in section 8, there's some details of lessons learnt, and in section 9 as well, which have come around as a result of looking back over the process. Section 10 is the details just of the process of the ICO investigation, the Information Commissioner's Office, and the recommendations that they've made here for us to implement. Section 11 just has our own internal audit recommendations for reducing the risks in the future. And whilst we're making these recommendations in the report, it should be noted that most of which, if not all, are already in hand with work progressing on all of them. As far as the conclusion is concerned, just noting that no public body or private body or any business is immune to cyber attacks, and this has kind of been shown pretty extensively over the last year since our own. NHS Dumfriesshire was one, for example, which had their data leaked almost immediately. There's councils all across the country as well, which have been subject to similar attacks. So cybercrime is on the rise, and whilst we can do everything we can to reduce risks, it cannot and will not ever be reduced to zero. We can put processes in place to try and reduce the risks as much as possible and ensure that recovery processes can be as efficient as they possibly can be. And finally, just to kind of thank all staff that were involved in responding to the review, and also thank you to staff, in particular IT staff, for the work they've done over the last year and continue to do. And also thanks to the finance colleagues for their hard work over the last 12 months as well. And happy to take any questions on it.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Mr. Nicol, do you want to add anything at this stage, or do you want to wait to get the questions?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sandy. I felt it was a very comprehensive report, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank my team and all the hard work that they put in through a very challenging time, and also thank all the staff of the council. And, you know, a predicament like that, to be thrown in at the deep end with no prior experience, is truly remarkable what they managed to achieve and to keep things going. So I don't have anything further to add to the comment. I'll happily field questions from anyone.
Okay, thank you. Members? Ray Mackenzie, I see first.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think there's lots of lessons to be learned and lots of things that E2, I think, shows all the negatives. They weren't all negatives, obviously. As Mr. Nicol, as Mr. Gomez and Mr. Nicol said, you know, it's happening all over the world, and it's all sorts of organisations are being attacked. I think the only thing I would say about that is that our backups at the time may not have been adequate, and that can be answered. But I'm also worried that the backups are not up to date at the present time. I mean, that was probably the ultimate thing, that we couldn't stop the cyber attack, but could we have had better backups, you know, on in line at the time? I've got a few things. I don't think we were prepared. It said that in the report. We weren't prepared, and that's a negative. What's probably even more important is that we didn't carry out the 2023 instructions, and that seems to, whether that, I don't know, again, the experts can tell me, would that have, if that had been carried out as was suggested, or not suggested, but instructed at the time, a year, well, certainly before this happened, would it have saved it? There was, the good things about it was there was a quick response, and the staff themselves were fantastic. I think going to the last thing I'd written down there was, and it's highlighted that staffing was 5 short at the time. Now, that was unforgivable, and I understand now that that's now been rectified and the 5 staff short have been filled. I know there's been so much pressure on the staff over a year, actually, and that, as Mr. Gomez says, we don't know what the long-term issues will be there, but they have, you know, gone beyond whatever before, beyond duty. in carrying out what they have to do. Some matters, the report says some matters have not been completed. I wonder what these matters are. I don't know if it's clear in the report, but when will they be completed? That's really, I mean, we've lost probably over £1 million so far on this, and as a council, and there's going to be more ongoing, presumably. So these are the highlights or lowlights, whatever you want to call it, you know, but the backups and the lack of staffing, the effect on staff who have done a fantastic job since there was a quick response. The staff, not just the IT staff, but everybody got together within 24 hours by the sound of things, or within a few hours. And there are some matters which, I say again, have to be sorted out, and I hope that, you know, that it's nearly complete.
Thank you, Mr. Mackenzie. Could I just remind, I'll probably need to remind the officer speaking, if there are any specific details that are asked for in any questions, we need to be careful as this is a public meeting in case someone who's could listen in and do more damage to us. So you will be aware of that. So if anything's asked and you do want to go into private, Mr. Niggle, please let us know, because you know we don't want to give any information away out with, then we've just got to be careful. So
In public domain.
This report is in the public domain.
Oh, well,
but what we have to be careful, Mr. Mackenzie, is if you're asking specific questions about IT and systems being put in place, that we don't put that in public domain. So, Mr. Nicol, would you like to answer some of the points Mr. Mackenzie's raised then? And possibly leave your light on, because there'll be other questions directed your way as well.
Thank you, Chair. There was quite a lot in that, quite a lot of questions to cover off there. So with regards to the backup system, that it's right to highlight the issues that it had at the time. They have been rectified, and systems have been put in place to ensure that the backup of council data is fully secured. I cannot go into the detail of what them systems are for security reasons, but be rest assured that these mechanisms that have been put in place have been built to recommended standards recommended by the security industry and by the National Cyber Security Centre. Councillor, you mentioned some issues in the report about systems that still weren't fully operational. These systems in question are systems that are highly complex, and they're still going through the build process and the test process. We're looking at there's a couple of departments systems. I'm not sure if I can sort of name which ones, but they are nearing completion and will be ready soon. One system in particular relies on data coming from other government agencies, and there is a high level of scrutiny around our security before that data is released to us. We're currently working on that right now, working closely with the government body in question, and things are looking very positive on that front as of just this last week, where we've had some pretty good results from some security specialists. So sorry, I can't remember, was there more points there to cover off? Feel free to come back in and remind me.
Okay, thank you. Convener, you next.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and I'm not a member of your committee. I think, first of all, I'd like to thank Sandy Gomez and his team for this very detailed and excellent report about the cyber attack on the 7th of November 2023. I don't think you've missed anything out of this report, and it's obvious as well that staff were very helpful and obliging. Also, I think we should pay tribute to Malcolm Nichol and the IT team for all the work, the power of work they've done over the past year. It's hard to believe it's a year ago and a month now since the cyber attack, and you know, you've all to be commended for the work you did and how quickly you got things up and running with the systems. And my final point is, I'd like to ask the Chief Executive, you know, it's cost us a lot of money. I know other public organisations who have suffered the same kind of attacks, cyber attacks. The government have reimbursed them some of the costs. Have we had any inkling, Chief Executive, if we're going to get anything reimbursed with any of the costs that we've incurred over the past year?
Executive, some answer.
Thank you, Chair. In response to the convener's question, we are at the final stages of that process. I mean, all the costs that have been incurred, of course, some would have been incurred anyway, as we move to improve in terms of our own improvement plans. A number of services, for example, were due to move to the cloud. Mr. Nichols nodding. I think that, and the license fees for those would have caused us increased costs anyway. Others are part of our digitalisation strategy, but of course there are the one-off costs of recovery from the cyber attack, and we have worked with Scottish Government, which has been very supportive over the piece, I must say, to identify the one-off costs from what are either service improvements or just implementation of our own strategies, and the final letter with that final submission is with the Cabinet Secretary at the moment.
Yeah. Councillor McLean and then Councillor Murray. Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions. As a matter of fact, one or two of them have been asked before, but can I just ask this? I'm a complete novice in IT, so I'm going to. I have difficulty on even understanding the cloud, far less anything else. But if procedures, and thanks for the report, by the way, Sandy. It's readable to even a novice such as I am, but it's truthful. It's good. If procedures that have been earmarked, have been highlighted, I should say, by Sandy Gomez here, if procedures had been in place, it would seem that some of the procedures weren't in place prior to. Am I correct in this? Some procedures were not in place. If they had been in place, would the attack have been reduced, prevented altogether, or mitigated? Any of these? That's the first question.
Mr. Nichol, do you want to come in and answer?
Maybe Sandy can.
Sandy. Probably have to a light off to. Yeah, that's it.
But on that, I'm sure Malcolm Nichol can give it a bit more detail as well. But as has been said by Audit Scotland as well, had we undertaken their recommendation for them to test the disaster recovery plans and cyber plans, there's no reference of whether or not we would have been attacked. What it could have potentially done is allow us to understand how to react to it. But at the same time, you're testing a plan based on a hypothetical attack, not to the scale of how we were attacked. I mean, the fact that we lost everything almost immediately, and had no access to data, we had no access to the backups. I mean, it's quite extreme circumstances, I would say. I mean, when you look at some of the other councils that have been hit, every single attack is slightly different. So you are testing based on a hypothetical. So again, there's no certainty as to whether or not it would have been much different.
Yeah, I understand hindsight is a great thing. You know, I understand that, and what we could have done. But given that some warnings were given, if I read this properly, would that have mitigated the effects of?
Probably difficult to quantify. I wouldn't say yes, and I wouldn't say no. It certainly wouldn't have prevented the attack. I know that Scotland agree with that. Yeah. But as to how we responded, could it have been slightly more efficient? Yeah, possibly.
So, Mr. Nicholl, do you want to?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor, what Sandy said is exactly right. You will never reduce, you will never get rid of the risk of an attack. You can reduce that risk, but there will always be that element that something could get onto the network. The recovery time potentially could have been improved had some of that testing been carried out. Might have highlighted certain areas, but it would never have stopped an attack.
McLean, do you want to come back?
So yes, given that, was there a ransom sought by the attacker?
I'll ask the chief. We can't answer that in public.
Aye, you can't answer. Yeah, I see. So
I think
maybe that's
the chief executive can maybe come back to us on that. You know.
Yeah.
Any further questions? No. Councillor Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to Mr. Gomez and the staff for producing such a report. I have a number of questions to ask, so bear with me. The first one I want to ask is, did the Council's insurance brokers ever refer to the possibility of insurance cover being put in place to protect the Council against costs in the event of a cybercrime event?
Gomez. Mr. Nicholl. Mr. Nicholl.
Thank you, Chair. There, from what I know about the insurance part, there was a sub-clause within the Council's existing insurance policy for a set figure. Whether the insurance company approached the Council to discuss specific cyber insurance cover, I'm unable to answer that.
Mr. Barr, are you able to? No.
Okay. Did any report to members recommend that cybersecurity insurance cover be put in place?
Mr. Gomez.
Not to my knowledge, but again, that would, all insurance matters would have gone through the Chief Financial Officer.
Is the Chief Financial Officer here?
I'm not sure he's still in, is he? Can we check, Marina, is he? No, still here. Do you want to come to the next question where we're taking?
This is about the staffing. How many staff in total were there in the section prior to the cyber attack, and what were the job titles for the 5 vacant posts? Did any of these 5 vacant posts have a role to play in backup procedures and in cyber security?
Thank you, Chair. So we had a software analyst role. We had a business support analyst role. We had a systems analyst role and a help desk technician. That's the job titles of the vacant posts. We do not have any roles that are specific to cybersecurity. It comes as part of the systems analyst role, and they all play a part within that. And all the systems analysts also play a part in the backup systems as well. So there isn't one specific role that's cybersecurity or backup.
So they're all responsible.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, there's a restructure review. There's a restructure review referred to in paragraph 9.7, and I want to ask, when did the restructure review start? What was the anticipated length of the review, and how long did it take?
Chair, Mr. Mackenzie, yeah, do you want to?
There was a review, I don't know the exact dates, I can get these dates to you afterwards, but to my recollection, the review was started when the previous Director of Assets, Finance and Resources was in place. There was an initial consultation undertaken then. There was no implementation at that stage. I undertook a further review and a further consultation thereafter. We were just going through that process when we were hit by the cyber attack. And then there was a review then again to say, okay, what do we need for recovery? So that may have looked different to what the business as usual structure may have looked at. There was then a very quick implementation of a temporary structure, which is still in place. And part of the report that went to HR sub this series as well looked at, okay, reviewing now the structure, how fit is it for purpose as we're now recovered and going into day to day, and also looking at the potential of involving other areas of IT as well. So that's my recollection off the top of my head. If there's any more specific dates, I'm happy to provide them after the meeting.
Before you come to any more, Councillor Murray, your Chief Financial Officer away for the day, unfortunately, but we'll get him to come back to you with an answer to your two questions.
Did any staff ever express concerns in relation to backup processes and cybersecurity procedures to their line management?
Nico.
Thank you, Chair. We were aware that our backups hadn't kept up to speed with the latest type of cyber attacks, and they were at that moment in time under review. We were looking to improve that backup capability. So you know, we knew that the technology could be improved, and we were in that process, but unfortunately too late.
Okay. What savings were made as a result of the 5 posts being vacant, and how long were these posts vacant for?
I'm not able to answer that for you.
Mr. Mackenzie, you want to?
The posts weren't all vacated at the same time. There was some posts, well, there was like a consecutive leaving of employees, which didn't mean that we had 5 posts vacant for that period of time. Indeed, one of the posts had resigned probably about maybe a year before, 3 months before. Yeah. So some of them were, it was difficult without having the structural review in place to say this is exactly what we want to replace these posts with. So we are looking as well at, you'll have heard earlier on about digital strategy and how we want to move. So that was all part of looking at what the IT section would look at. So although there were savings, I can't quantify them just now to you, but some of that saving was reinvested in the infrastructure. So there were underspends that were taken forward to consecutive years and identified for upgrading systems. Now, as has been said earlier on as well, we were in the process of looking at, okay, what we want to do. This is how we can fund it. And then things got accelerated with the cyber attack.
I've got paragraph 9.1 refers to a move to cloud-based versions, and I want to ask what costs would have been involved in moving to a cloud-based backup system prior to the attack?
Mr. Nicholl.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the cost varies massively depending on, you know, what service you pick. There's lots of different services out there. I can give you a rough example. If a figure off the top of my head, you know, you could be paying at a minimum, you could be paying £12,000 per annum for a very basic system that will give you what you need, but wouldn't have the sort of sophistication in it of monitoring and logging. And then you can go up to tens, hundreds of thousands. So it's just such a huge spectrum.
Were these costs ever given to members for consideration?
No.
I want to look at paragraph 13.1 now. Paragraph 13.1 refers to a large number of councils in Scotland and England have been affected by cyber attacks. Can I ask how many councils have been involved, and is this a significant number in terms of the number of the total local authorities in England and Scotland? How many?
Nicola, you like enough? Yeah. Sandy?
I mean, there's a number of high-profile ones, for example, that have been in the press for the likes of the NHS Dumfriesshire. I think NHS in Aberdeen, I think, were hit at some point as well. There are also some councils down in England. Was Harrogate one of them or something? I don't have the exact number of how many there was. I mean, I'm talking about ones that are high-profile in the press. That's not to say that attacks aren't happening on a regular basis that aren't highlighted to the press. It's difficult to quantify that. I could certainly get figures off some of the ones that were high profile where there was data leaks.
I think it just says it's a large number, so I was just, I hadn't really, I think it's highlighted in the press when there is a cyber attack, and I wasn't aware that there was a large number. I think the total number of local authorities is about 317, so a large number would be quite a bit. But
it would be. I would interpret that as a large number being a large number of attacks that are actually having an effect. I mean, as Malcolm could probably confirm, we're under attack from cyber criminals on an almost daily basis. The ones that actually get through, although, well, for us, the unlucky ones. My interpretation of large number in my report is the fact that there are more than just us and more than just one or two others. It is getting quite regular, and more authorities and bodies are getting hit all the time.
I'd like to make a couple of recommendations, Chair, but if any other member wants to get involved in or I'd like to leave until the end, but I've got two recommendations, additional recommendations I'd like to put forward.
Do any other members want to come in first on questions? I mean, this is a comprehensive report by internal audit, and I would like to really convey my own thanks to the internal audit team and to the IT team, and not only to the IT team, but to every member of staff and the public for their patience as well during the cyber attack. I think everyone's really pulled well together. So and it can happen, you know, it can happen at a private level. I'll just share one thing I read myself on Monday, where a farmer he thought he had paid an £18,000 grain bill to his supplier, and he was dealing through an email, and he was dealing with this company regularly on an email. The invoice came in, which he thought was from the company as it used to come in, and it did come in on the company, but a hacker had actually gone into his account and changed the bank details on the invoice to their own bank details, and he paid the 18,200 to the hacker. So it just shows how easy it can happen at a private level, company level. So any further questions before Councillor Murray comes in, please? No. Councillor Murray?
I believe that there is meetings being held with the Scottish Government to try and ask them to provide additional funding to alleviate the burden on the Comhairle in relation to the one-off costs that have been incurred. Can I ask who's actually meeting? Is it the Chief Executive, the leader, and the Deputy Leader?
I need to ask the Chief Executive. Chief Executive?
At the moment, that correspondence is among myself, Ms Skinner, Mr Nicol, assisted by other advisors as necessary. The leader will also be involved in the correspondence, since that is now directly with Scottish ministers.
Well, I'd like to move that the outcome of such meetings be reported back to the council.
Yeah.
Chair, happy
Aye,
to
yeah.
confirm there's no need for such a recommendation because that will be reported back through Policy and Resources Committee, as indeed it was this afternoon through the outcome report. And if there's a follow-up report to this report, I'm not sure if there is, but if there is, it will also be reported there. But in any case, it will be reported to the council, and indeed it will be on the budget strategy documents in February, because that's a material point for next year's budget setting.
Thank you, Chief Executive.
Okay,
Councillor Murray.
Can I move my two recommendations then?
Let's hear them.
I would move that, as well as note in the report that the committee agree that the Chief Internal Auditor report back to each meeting of the committee on the follow-up action being taken in connection with the implementation of the recommendations detailed in his report, in order to provide the committee with the assurance that the original recommendations have been implemented. It's my first recommendation.
Could we ask the Chief Internal Auditor what your follow-up, what your procedure is going forward from this report?
Yeah, well, I mean, as with all internal audit reviews, we undertake a follow-up between 6 and 12 months following the report. This would be standard process for this report as well. So the recommendations will be followed up.
I think this is such an important issue. I mean, we're talking about over 1 million. I think it should be to every committee that we keep monitoring the progress rather than a 6 to 12 month to ensure that these recommendations are put in place.
I mean, we could have it. I think we need to have it every committee, but
That's
every series.
That's what I want to move, Chair, and I've got a second recommendation as well.
What's the second one?
Having heard about the effects the staff are having, I think it's essential for external counselling to be available for IT staff and indeed any other member of staff who have been affected by this criminal cybersecurity event. So I therefore move my second recommendation that a report be prepared as soon as possible on how best staff affected by the cybersecurity attack can be offered external professional counselling.
Chief Executive.
Well, I appreciate the sentiments behind the report, but I would view that as an operational matter for management. If staff are in need of support at any level, in any service, in any situation, that is a managerial responsibility, and I would I don't think a resolution of the Comhairle would support or diminish that in any way. I mean, I'm looking to colleagues here, but our policies provides for such support where that's sought, and obviously I don't want to know if that's been sought in this particular case, because that would be too much detail for a public meeting. But I'm not aware of any external support having been sought. But Ms. Skinner would like to come in, I see, and then Mr. Gomez.
Skinner.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to highlight that we have an employee assistance programme in place which offers counselling to all employees, which is accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and accessible not only to the employee themselves, but also to their family.
I was talking about external counselling as well, but I'd like to move these two recommendations. So you want to accept them? Or?
Could we hear a second one again, Councillor
Murray? The report be prepared as soon as possible on how best staff affected by the cybersecurity attack can be offered external professional counselling.
The recommendation. The recommendation is competent in that a report can always be prepared, but I have to say these are operational matters. We have a policy in place for support of staff. It is for managers to activate that on the request of employees, or employees can indeed activate that themselves. So the report will simply record that, and it is, as I say, an operational matter. But it's if the Corla wishes a report, it can have a report, but I can assure you that that is all it will note, because these policies are already in place.
I'm just expressing a duty of care for our employees, and I'm quite disappointed this has been.
Yeah, the duty of care is already absolute and is already in place and provided for. That is the point I'm making. We have policies in place which exercise that duty of care towards all our employees, and I'm happy to provide details to all members on what we do, but that is what we do, and we have a duty of care, and we exercise that.
Oh, Ms. Skinner, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I would wish to add is that the Employee Assistance Programme is completely external from the Corla. It's a contract that we have in place with an external provider called Health Assured. And like I said, it offers counselling sessions to all staff and to their families, and it's available 24/7. But it's external.
I mean, I'm happy with all that. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's not necessary to have a recommendation, that second recommendation, Councillor Murray. Thank you for that information. But I'm happy for your first recommendation for something to come back at a future, that we do follow it up. I don't think we need to add every series, but I think given at audit. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'm happy for audit, but not, it doesn't need to go to every committee, but just to audit committee. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the audit and scrutiny. Yeah. 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 I'll just check with Mr. Gorman. Are you okay with that, Sandy? Yeah, that's naughty. That's fine. Okay, any further questions then on this report? No. Okay. So do you remember? Sorry, who? Oh, Chris Mackenzie.
Yeah. Well, I actually came in before that, and I'm quite. I was wondering about the external thing. So that's satisfied me if it's external, and it comes under what Councillor Murray was saying there, because it is a unique situation, but presumably this can apply in any situation, but it's more likely to happen now. And as far as the first recommendation is concerned, I gather that you've agreed with that. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Murray, finally once.
Chair, just to finally, the questions I did ask that were in the Chief Financial Officer's
he'll come back.
He's going to come back and dates that Mr. Mackenzie would mention as well.
Chief Executive, do you want?
Yeah, if Councillor Murray could give me just a note of these questions so that we have them exactly accurately, unless the clerks record them word for word. It would be handy, just given they're about detailed matters of insurance, that if you could send these to me, I'll make sure they're answered.
Okay. Okay. So with the additional recommendation that the report comes back to audit meetings at every series, do members agree to note this report? Okay, thank you. Okay, now we move back to our agenda. To item number 4, service improvement. And thank you, Fiona, for your patience on this one. This is the Best Value Continuous Improvement Action Plan. This report seeks to inform the committee of the progress with the Continuous Improvement Action Plan and presents the key findings for effective challenge and scrutiny. And Fiona and APIS are available to speak to the report. Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides the mid-year 24-25 performance review of outstanding items as at the 30th of September. The cyber attack experienced by the Corla in November impacted on some services, completing the recommendations within the proposed time period. And the incident also affected the Corla's website. Therefore, links to some of the audit and self-assessment reports previously published are not available. Since writing the report, the Chief Officer for Health and Social Care has advised that all actions within the Learning Disability and Autism Service internal audit highlighted at paragraph 10.1 is now complete. with the strategy subject to review and full implementation in the 25-26 financial period. And in respect of the residential care services internal audit of paragraph 10.2, the progress with resolving the outstanding cases continues with dedicated legal support to assist in the requesting of information from external parties to be able to conclude matters. This aspect of the process is in the main determinant in relation to timeframes. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Fiona. Members have any questions for Gordon Murray?
Good Chair. Section 5.3 in the report. Thanks very much for the report to Mrs. Nape. Section 5.3 in the report says that the Comhairle has implemented many successful initiatives, which is to be welcomed, but the overall pace of change has been slow. It needs to ensure that it has the leadership capacity to drive strategic and transformational change at the pace needed. Can you elaborate on that? And has this improved any since you wrote this?
So that's a statement from the Comhairle's Best Value Assurance report, and there's an action plan in place to deliver on the points made in that report. Also earlier today at the Policy and Resource Committee, we introduced the new organisational development strategy, which is a strategy to be progressed over the next 6 years. And as part of that strategy also, the leadership training is going to be reviewed, and I would imagine anything from the fallout that's still outstanding from the BVAR will be included in the organisational development strategy.
Okay. You mentioned leadership training. What does that involve?
Training will be for elected members and for chief officers and for line managers. It's not an area that I will be taking forward personally, but we can come back as that progresses. There will be obviously throughout the course of the 6 years we're going out to consultation with the chief officers to see how that training, for instance, on that particular area is going to be delivered. What are the milestones? What are the targets? What are the outcomes we're trying to achieve? And there will obviously be periodic progress reports brought back to P&R accordingly. But if there's something specific as it progresses, then obviously we can bring that to your attention also.
I'll come back again.
Another question. It seems that Human Resources Department has 9 recommendations and 8 of them are still outstanding. What's the progress with these at the moment? These ones that are outstanding.
I'll ask maybe Ms. Skinner to answer that. Norma?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm just going to get to it. On which ones? Some of the sickness absence ones, we've obviously, after the cyber attack, we've had a lot of work to do in working through getting the system back up and running, etc. We've had to take some time to get that done before progressing some of the sickness absence stuff. Obviously, without access to the system, that impacted as well on some of the sickness absence actions that we were taking forward. In terms of corporate training, again, most of these actions are now being taken forward, but again, this was an area where there was a lot of pressure within the system.
I think there's an active staff survey at the moment, so that might address some of the issues that are involved in terms of the staff sickness. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Murray. Members agree with recommendations in at 3.1. Thank you. Item 5, Equality Outcomes and Mainstreaming Report 2025 to 2029. This report by the Chief Executive presents the draft Equality Outcomes 25 to 29 to the Committee for Review and seeks approval for public consultation. Again, Fiona will speak to this report. Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. So this is there is a statutory requirement to publish equality outcomes at least every 4 years. And in preparation of agreeing a fresh set of equality outcomes for the 25-29 period, a review of local data, existing corporate plans, improvement plans and business plans was undertaken. In the development of the draft outcomes presented to you today, internal consultation was undertaken with the corporate management team, chief officers and officers involved in the current 21-25 report. And this report is therefore presented to you for permission to go out to public consultation on the draft equality outcomes for the 25-29 period, following which the draft equality outcomes and mainstreaming report for 21-25 that is required to be published by the 30th of April 2025 will be presented to Comhairle for approval at the February 2025 series of meetings. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Fiona. Members, have any questions from Fiona? No. Okay, members agree to the recommendation of 3.1. Thank you. We've had item number 6. Item number 7, we're on to internal audit matters. This is the internal audit progress 24-25 report by Mr. Gomez, which summarises the internal audit activity within Comhairle and Siar for the period covering 1st April 2024 to 4th November 2024. The activity has been based on the approved strategic audit plan for the 3 years to 31st March 2026 and the approved operational internal audit plan for 24-25. And Mr. Gomez will speak to his report.
Thanks, Chair. It's just the standard progress report. We report at every meeting. Section 3 shows the work in progress at the moment. There's no active investigations. There's no follow-up reports as part of this agenda, but likely to be in the next one. There are further, in relation to 5.2 of 5.3, there are further items on the agenda in relation to these. And the appendix is a snapshot of where we are with the plan to date. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Not seeing any. No questions? No. Members agree to note the report? Okay. Item 8, internal audit, external quality assurance review. This is again a report by Mr. Gomez, which seeks to advise members of the arrangements of the external quality assurance EQA review of internal audit. And Mr. Gomez will speak to the report.
Thanks, Chair. This report is just to note to the committee the arrangements for the external quality assurance assessment of our internal audit service. This is done every 5 years. The last one was undertaken at the end of 2020 and reported in April 2021. So the work has commenced on this now, and the report and the outcome of the assessment will likely to be in around April or June time in 2025. This is part of our quality assurance improvement programme.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Any questions? No. Okay, members agree to note the report. Thank you. Item 9, amended internal audit operational plan for 24-25. Again, this report by Mr. Gomez, the Chief Internal Auditor, seeks approval of the committee to amend the internal audit operational plan covering period 24-25. And Mr. Gomez will speak to his report and answer any questions.
We're just putting forward a request to make a few changes to the operational plan. The cyber report was always going to be taken from contingency days, and also with the recovery work following the cyber attack, some of the reviews have been possible to be undertaken. So what we're asking for is to defer 3 of them and to remove 1 of them. This change will still allow us to complete 80% of the original plan, which is our standard KPI target for the year. The 3 reviews we're asking to defer, 2 of which they've been undertaken in recent years. One had been planning and the other one supply teaching. We're just asking to move those to next year, planning specifically because as their system's not up and running yet, it makes sense to do that in the following year. The one where the review regarding budget setting and medium-term financial plan, again, we just feel this will be more suitable next year as this is a work in progress. And the one we're asking to remove from the plan is a review that was planned on the housing with extra care part of Seaforth House. So obviously with the closure of Blarbuya, this causes some changes there. So what we would look to do is remove this, but as part of the next strategic plan, 26 to 29, we'd look at developing a review around the full use of Seaforth House as the new model that is being planned. I'm happy to take any questions on it.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Members, Gordon Murray.
Thanks, Chair. It's just with regards, I'm a little bit uncomfortable about taking the budget setting and long, medium-term financial planning out, given the fact that it's such an important thing that we need to be looking at. When you say it's ongoing, what do you mean by that?
Well, just with the budget setting process just now already going on, what we're looking for is just to put that into next year's operational plan. Now, one of the other things along with this one is that the resources that are needed to do it, it's going to need suitably qualified staff in order to undertake this piece of work. This has been discussion with our Chief Internal Auditors group, and it's quite an extensive piece of work. And you know that we have a trainee auditor at the moment, so we're looking to develop her skills a bit more before, so that we can use the resources accordingly. So that it's not just falling completely on the Chief Internal Auditor. It'll need some extra resources into that as well. So it makes sense to move that into the 25-26 operational plan.
Has work been done on it? Are you able to share what has been done or the work that has been done on that, the budget setting?
Well, no, because we haven't done any review on that at present. We're just, what I'm meaning is the budget process is underway at the moment.
Yeah.
So having a review of that process makes sense once it's complete.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. No further questions? Members agree to note the report. Agree the recommendation of 3.1. Thank you. We now move into internal audit completed reviews. Item number 10. First one's Eclipse Social Care Management System. Again, this report has been prepared for an internal audit review of Eclipse Social Care Management System as part of the operational annual internal audit plan for 24-25. The report provides an overview of the CONUS arrangements for the operational management of Eclipse Social Care System. And Chrissy Macaulay from the internal audit team will speak to this report and answer members any questions. Emma McSween is also present should anyone need any questions.
Chair, if I can get members to turn to page 2, paragraph 1.3, our concluding remarks. There wasn't a lot in this review at all. We're just highlighting some housekeeping issues that would help. We're giving the review a full level of assurance, and the main findings are in the body of the report from page 4 to 6, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Macaulay.
Thank you.
Members. There's a Gordon Murray.
Just to commend the report, and excellent to see that the system is simplifying what can be a very complex system. So
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Thank you. Members agree then to note the report. Thank you. Moving on to item number 11 now. This is medication management. Again, a report has been prepared following an internal audit review of medication management as part of the operational annual internal audit plan for 24-25. The purpose of the report is to provide an overview of the CONUS arrangements for the operational management of medication management. And Erica Geddes from the internal audit team will speak to the report, and Emma McSween will also come in to give us an update on where things are. Erica, first of all.
Thank you, Chair. From this audit, we made 4 recommendations, one of which was high and 3 medium recommendations. If I could draw the members' attention to section 1.3, which details our most significant issues, and from the review was for a full rewrite of the medication management policy statement and procedure handbooks, and for staff training to be given on marsh administration sheets. On this audit, we gave a reasonable level of assurance. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Erica. I'll ask Emma maybe to come in now and give us an update. Emma.
Thank you. Yes, training's been completed and there's ongoing support for staff in terms of refresher training as required. I think the report covers the main areas that we're actioning. We've completed many training. We've got a new audit process in place. The policy, as the auditors alluded to, has been refreshed, and we're working closely with the care inspectorate pharmacy specialists to help us do that, and that's working well. So we have the local service improvement staff working on it, as well as drawing on the expertise of others.
Thank you. Any questions for either Emma or Erica? No. No questions? Okay. Members agree to note this report. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Emma. Thank you. Item 12, street lighting. Report by the Chief Internal Auditor has been prepared for an internal audit review of street lighting as part of the operational annual internal audit plan for 24-25. The purpose of the report is to provide an overview of the corner's arrangements for the operational management of street lighting. And Chrissy Macaulay again will speak to this report and answer any questions. And Mr. Colin McKenzie is also available to answer any questions. Chrissy.
Thank you, Chair. If I can get members to turn to page 2 again at paragraph 1.3, just housekeeping issues which we have graded as low risk. And then in the body of the report from page 4 to 6, just our findings and responses, and again, a good report.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for either Mr. McKenzie or Ms. McCarthy? No. Okay, members agreed to note the report. Thank you. Item 13. Oh, we've covered that one. Yeah, how could I forget? Item number 14, then finally, performance monitoring is reported standing, and that's for noting. And finally, the next scheduled meeting of this committee will be 6th February 2025. We will have to convene when the accounts are ready for approval, so we'll notify we'll notify that to members of the committee. We haven't got a date or a time at the moment. The Chief Financial Officer. And all that's left for me is to wish you and your families, if we don't see you before Christmas, the very best Christmas and a happy and prosperous new year and every blessing for the coming year. Thank you very much for your patience today. Thank you.
Take the first page and then just show them.